Hello, Internet, and welcome to Cultural Callison. Today we're going to talk about the Sinestro Corp War. This is the big one. This is when the Green Lantern titles kicked into high gear. From here on out, Blackest Night is practically inevitable. If you thought that Green Lantern Rebirth put all of the pieces on the board for Blackest Night, Sinestro Corp War moves them all into position. And it's pretty awesome. It's the gateway storyline that led me to become a fan of the Green Lantern titles, especially the ones that Johns has been writing. Now, a note about the format before we proceed, because it bothers me that people label the claim that the DC reprint editors screwed up the Blackest Night trade format by printing the Blackest Night miniseries as one volume and the Green Lantern tie-in issues as another volume, when if you want to follow Hal Jordan's story, you have to read them intertwined. I read the Sinestro Corp War in trade paperback form, and they intertwine the tie-in issues from Green Lantern Corps and the Green Lantern main series, and it really doesn't work. It interrupts the flow of both stories, and it doesn't really help chronologically because most of these events are happening simultaneously. So, good show to DC's reprint editors for not making that mistake again with the Blackest Night story. I suppose it helps that Blackest Night was a much more high-profile event, and they wanted to sell the Blackest Night trade on its own and felt they could do so. So Sinestro Corp War starts out with a little something for the ladies. Naked Sinestro laying in a crouched position before his Sinestro ring. And I don't know if this was something intentional that Johns did, but it really works well. The position that Sinestro is in as he's reflecting on his history and what brought him to this point, he's literally praying to his ring. He's praying to the power that it can provide him. It's very subtle, which is why I'm not sure Johns might be responsible for it, because he's not particularly subtle as a writer. He is the Michael Bay of comic writers. Big, fancy explosions, and everything's right there on the table for you. Balls to the wall action, not a lot of subtext. But there was some, this was a really well-planned, well-drawn scene. You're also reminded that the scar Kyle Rayner put on Sinestro's back in Rebirth, it's still around. He branded the Green Lantern symbol onto Sinestro's back, and I'm going to go ahead and say that was a bad decision because he's about to pay for it horribly. On Earth, Hal Jordan is looking for evidence on the Sinestro Corps, whatever it is, because if you'll recall, Amon Sur was about to kill Hal Jordan before the Sinestro Corps ring zapped him into the Antimatter universe. But deciding there's nothing to be found, he gathers up the other Earthbound Green Lanterns and goes to talk to the Guardians. Kyle Rayner, who is currently the Ion the Torchbearer, the new experimental super Green Lantern, is in a bit of a funk because his mother has passed away, but at least she wasn't ripped in half and stuffed into a refrigerator like his first girlfriend, so at least this time his loved one dying isn't his fault. Kyle has managed to capture a Sinestro Corps ring, but when he gets a bit depressed, it triggers a booby trap and zaps him into the Antimatter universe. At the same time, a member of the Sinestro Corps starts sniping Oa from 3 space sectors away, killing random Green Lanterns and generally causing a panic, which allows a Sinestro Corps strike team to invade the Citadel on Oa and free 3 prisoners, the Cyborg Superman, Superboy Prime, and Parallax. Oh, and they also booby-trap the Central Lantern. So, yeah, lots of bad stuff happens very quickly. In the Antimatter universe, Kyle finally sees the Sinestro Corps, and it's not just a couple guys. It's not just Sinestro and a handful of followers. This is not the Sinister Six. This is the Sinister 7200. There's a Sinestro Corps member counterpart to every member of the Green Lantern Corps, and it's just in this 2-page spread you see the full implications of what's about to happen. That splishy sound you hear is literally the poo hitting the fan. I love the designs of the Sinestro Corps guys, by the way. It looks like Merrick Ishtar's dueling deck came to life and joined the space fascists. It's they're all horribly twisted and macabre, and it just goes perfectly to my sensibilities. I mean, look at this. Maash and Newdoria, separated at birth, you decide. Kyle tries to run, it doesn't work. Sinestro captures him and reveals the truth about the ion power. Parallax is a yellow fear space bug. Ion is the Green Lantern's answer to that, a green willpower space fish. They rip Ion out of Kyle and infuse him with Parallax, making him its new host. And I have to say, Parallax is never more creepy than in these scenes when he's possessing Kyle. I don't know what it is. Even in the Sinestro Corp Parallax tie-in, which I'm not actually going to bother discussing because it was pretty much a waste of time, he's not as creepy as he is in these scenes when Johns is writing. And he wasn't this creepy in Rebirth. He's not this creepy in Blackest Night. He's just really skin-crawlingly eerie when he's possessing Kyle. And I don't know what it is, but it just really strikes a good chord. So Hal, Guy Gardner, and John Stewart try to charge up their batteries after having fought off the attack on Oa. Surprise! Parallax was waiting for them inside the central battery and yanks their hinders to the antimatter universe. Hal has to fight off tons of Sinestro Corps guys on his own, and John and Guy Gardner are trapped and being subject to their worst nightmares. Fortunately, the Lost Lanterns are on the case. The Lost Lanterns, I once said, had the same mortality rate as the Teen Titans seem to do nowadays. And this is never more clear than when Parallax slaughters one of the Lost Lanterns. Another one, Boudica, I think I'm pronouncing that crazy space name correctly, she goes nuts. She tries to kill Kyle as Parallax, and her ring shuts off because Green Lantern rings can't be enabled for lethal force. And so her ring punishes her, turns itself off, and they have to retreat into the bowels of the Sinestro Corps' planet. Quad. Yeah, Quad is the planet. They retreat and decide to split up. The Lost Lanterns go to find Ion. A couple of them go with Hal Jordan to rescue Guy Gardner and John Stewart. They manage to find them and find the two and do so. Unfortunately, the Lanterns who try to rescue Ion find that Ion's being experimented on by none other than the Anti-Monitor, who has been helping the Sinestro Corps this whole time, and he goes ahead and blows another of the Lost Lanterns away because that Lost Lantern just had 2 days to retirement. It was tragic and unavoidable. Retirement-y. They all manage to escape and find that things have gotten worse because not only are the Sinestro Corps soldiers attacking Green Lanterns all over the galaxy, they're massing on Earth. They attack New York City because... Actually, I have no idea why they attack New York City, but the DC Universe is the comic universe where New York is actually a susceptible target, and Marvel, everyone would stop you. But the Justice League, the Justice Society, the Teen Titans, every superhero ever heads to New York to try and stop the alien invasion, and you have a lot of stuff going on. In Sinestro's inner circle, you've got the cyborg Superman who has been promised finally to die by the Anti-Monitor. You have Superboy Prime, who has been promised that Earth Prime will be restored. The Anti-Monitor has been promised that by taking Earth, he can take the entire multiverse. And Sinestro plans to, instill his universe with order and without chaos. It's kind of a throwback to, to the various powers of the various Axis powers in World War II. Every one of those nations had a different agenda, and they just happened to coincide in this instance. Although I will take this time to say that those folks calling Sinestro Space Hitler are a little off. in the sense that Sinestro is much more space Mussolini. He's a fascist with a capital F, not a lowercase f. He actually has a governing philosophy behind his actions. When the Guardians see that basically the Lanterns are getting their asses kicked up and down the galaxy, they decide to alter the rules and allow the Green Lanterns to use lethal force, which turns out to have been exactly what Sinestro wanted the whole time. The Green Lanterns quickly turn the tables. They drop Warworld on top of the Anti-Monitor, almost killing him, blasting the cyborg Superman to bits and tossing his corpse back into the antimatter universe. And Superboy Prime goes rogue, big surprise, throws the Anti-Monitor's weakened corpse into space, and one of the Guardians, and possibly the coolest thing a Guardian has ever done, grabs onto him and self-destructs, blowing him out of the universe entirely. It was pretty badass. The Sinestro Corps members retreat, and the day is saved, and Sinestro is finally arrested. Kyle and Hal Jordan beat him in hand-to-hand combat because all of their power rings get discharged, powered down, and they arrest him. They finally have him, and Sinestro's just sitting there happy as can be because now the Green Lanterns have been authorized to use lethal force. They used it to protect a backwater planet called Earth, and now the entire galaxy will fear them again. And that's what he wanted the whole time. I'm not entirely sure if that's really what he wanted the whole time, or if he just made that up to make his loss look like a victory, but it sounds plausible. It sounds like something that manipulative bastard would do. So yeah, Sinestro wins. Sinestro wins the Sinestro Corp War. And a whole lot of bad stuff happens as a result. It sets off the War of Light because the Guardians exile Ganthet and Sed, and they go and form the Blue Lantern Corps. And the Anti-Monitor's corpse is captured in a giant black power battery, which will, of course, fuel the Black Lanterns in the coming issues. This was a huge success for DC. It was kind of a sleeper hit because they didn't really promote it. It had one special and a couple of tie-ins. And from here, the Green Lanterns became a premier book in the DC Comics publishing line, along with the Bat books and the Superman books, and I would argue, frankly, much more entertaining than the Superman books have been recently, because Hal Jordan did his stupid walk across the nation thing back in the 70s. I loved this story. This is great action. The individual members of the Sinestro Corps are incredibly creepy. I love Carousel, I love Crib, I love Maash, even I love Low. Basically, any one of them that has a name tends to be pretty awesome. And it only gets better from here because in the next few months we get Secret Origins, we get the Red Lanterns, who are apparently getting their own book. I'm sorry, guys, the Sinestro Corps deserves one more. They were here first. We get Larfleeze in the next couple of issues. It just is full speed ahead to get to the launch of Blackest Night. So if you read Blackest Night, you should go back and read this, see where things really got going. If you haven't read any Green Lantern stuff, this is the good place to start. It gets a little wordy with the narration boxes, but again, like in Big Time, they're assuming you've never read this character's comic before. So they're giving you everything you need to know right up front. I could not recommend this more highly if you were at all interested in the Green Lanterns. And even if you're not, you still might want to check it out. I mean, he's getting a movie, and Tom Strong is going to be Sinestro, and there's no part of that doesn't make me squee. So I don't know what my next video subject is going to be. I do plan to keep going with the Green Lantern retrospectives, but I might switch it up and review something else next time. Like I said, I do plan to eventually get to Grant Morrison's Batman, since that run recently wrapped up and started on the new Batman International angle. So I will catch y'all next time, and just remember, they were separated at birth. It was really tragic their father disowned them.